Animal Crossing. Right now, it seems like everyone and their anthropomorphic dog is playing the game that allows you to live out your wildest fantasies, such as sitting outside for as long as you like, or having even the vaguest hope of owning a house. But what is the #1 activity for true Animal Crossing lovers? Millions of people across the world right now are enjoying a relaxing spot of fishing, observing the gentle majesty of nature, or patiently waiting with their collection of bugs for Flick to finally arrive on their island. Turns out all of those people are wrong, because I've worked out that the #1 Animal Crossing activity is in fact creating convoluted in-game fiction to justify cheating the game out of piles and piles of filthy cash. And friends, if that's your jam, then boy howdy do I have a trick for you. I'm about to show you a method I stumbled upon that allows you to farm a money forest yielding a guaranteed 160,000 bells a day. I'm calling it the Glastonbury method, and there's nothing you can do about it. Before I let you into my Nook League enterprise, a little background. This is Daphne. Daphne is my daughter's Animal Crossing character. And if you're curious what it's like living through lockdown with a young child, here's her in-game house. In the words of Oscar Wilde, life imitates art, and the tiniest piece of Lego penetrates even the thickest of socks. Whereas the majority of Animal Crossing players play solo, because I share the game with a tiny person, it means I actually spend about half my time in the game's slightly frustrating couch co-op mode, furiously shaking my controller every 30 seconds whenever one of us needs to achieve basically anything. And whilst playing couch co-op can have its downsides at times, it did lead us to an interesting discovery regarding money trees. Now, most players at this point probably know at least a little about money trees. Every day your island spawns a single glowing divot in the ground that you can dig up to receive a bag of 1,000 bells and a shiny glowing hole. If you then immediately rebury any amount of bells from 1 to 10,000, you'll get a sapling that will grow into a money tree with triple the amount you buried hanging in its branches. There's already dozens of videos and guides showing the ins and outs of your daily money tree, but what no one seems to mention is that if you play couch co-op with another player on the same Switch, then you actually get one money tree per player profile every day. We didn't even notice until a week or so of playing, but sure enough, every day both my character and my daughter's character spawn individual glowing spots. If we play at the same time, then they spawn on the island at the same time. And that's when the thought hit me. Nintendo says you can have up to 8 player profiles on a single Switch playing Animal Crossing at the same time. So does that mean you could in theory have 8 money trees every day? Of course, only a total lunatic would create 6 whole extra dummy profiles on their Switch just to avoid catching another sea bass. Which is why I've created an entire in-game fictional Glastonbury adjacent music festival for my 6 new residents to attend. To prove that this definitely isn't a fiddly waste of time, there are lots of people on the internet who find this interesting, and our marriage is absolutely not falling apart, okay? Catherine? So this is how the Glastonbury method works. There are definitely quicker ways to make big bucks in the game, but not without some risks. I like to think of this as a nice, gentle grind for people who aren't yet ready to deal with a turnip market or partake in potentially mind-bending time travel adventures. My method, whilst easy, is going to take a little bit of time and planning to set up. In order to grow 8 money trees a day, you're going to need 8 resident players on your island, and they're all going to need a place to put their tent. And that's why it's called the Glastonbury method, because you're going to end up with a pretty large campsite of people with little to no clothes or resources that you're essentially bleeding the cash out of every day. Each new resident tent takes up a 4x4 tile space on your in-game map, but you're also going to have to allow for an extra tile's worth of space in between each one. With as many as 7 tents to put down, that means you'll need to be willing to give up a pretty big chunk of space, even if it's only temporarily. Seeing as I'm creating a Glastonbury-style festival campsite, I've naturally chosen to place it alongside the in-game campsite. More importantly, to keep it authentic to Glastonbury, I have put it on the opposite side of the island, literally as far away by walking as you can possibly get from the main action and the nearest toilet. Once you've chosen your campsite area, it's time to make some festival goers by creating a bunch of new Switch profiles. To do this, close your game and go into your Switch's system settings. On the user page, select Add New User. The profile username isn't important, but for ease's sake, I named all mine the same as their respective new Animal Crossing characters. Next up, you're going to have to start a new game for each one of these new profiles. I won't lie, sitting through Timmy and Tommy's spiel and then Tom Nook teaching you how to use a phone multiple times is going to be pretty dull. It's probably going to take you a couple of hours, and you may have to bring your main character into the game to escort the new residents to the campsite if it's on an upper level. But before you know it, you'll have a campsite full of fresh-faced villagers, and in the meantime, you can be thinking up your festival goers' extremely important backstories. I base mine on the 6 basic types of people you meet at any major music festival. There's Rich Kid and social media influencer Tamara, who can usually be found live streaming backstage with her mates from Mum Crown and Sons. A full-time stoner known only by the nickname Pants, who, when not boasting about the time he went down a KK hole, wanders the festival trying to acquire illegal substances from complete strangers. Yoga teacher and spiritual healer Sunrise comes here mainly for the positive energy and wheatgrass lattes. Subsequently, she spends most of Saturday and Sunday in the queue for the toilets. Nina, on the other hand, is all about the music. She's actually in a band playing one of the smaller stages, a fact she literally won't stop telling you about. Hans is a random German backpacker who seemingly never sleeps and doesn't speak a word of English. And finally, there's Fabio. He's in his late 40s and thinks he's probably too old to go to festivals, but it's the only place he feels comfortable expressing his sexuality. Once your campsite is assembled, you'll need to wait until the next day before you can start growing your money forest. But since this is a music festival, your new campers will be more than happy to amuse themselves screaming Wonderwall at the top of their lungs until the day changes over at 5 AM. When the next day does roll around, it's time to start growing your 8 money trees a day thanks to your newfound festival friends. Once you've located your original player's glowing money spot for the day, you should dig up the initial bag and replant any amount up to 10,000 bells in order to guarantee triple your return. Remember that you're going to need 8 times the amount of cash you bury on hand in your pockets each day. As soon as the money is buried, immediately dig up the resulting sapling, as you're going to want all your money trees in one space. To collect the other 7 trees, you just have to act like you're at a real music festival. By which I mean you're going to need to see your new friends for no more than 5 minutes at a time as you wander aimlessly from location to location, missing the actual music you supposedly came to see. First up, you need to use the Call Resident app on your Nook phone to call up each of your festival goers one at a time to bring them into your island using the game's couch co-op mode. To do this, you'll either need 2 controllers or both halves of a single Joy-Con to control each resident. That means you can't do this part in handheld mode. Once your new resident is on the island with you, their glowing spot will also spawn somewhere on the island. All you've got to do is find it. Now don't worry, you don't have to control the second player, as thankfully they'll just respawn next to you in a puff of smoke whenever you leave them behind. Admittedly, it can get quite creepy catching them standing motionless as you leave them in the distance, but it's no more creepy than the way Lopez stares at me when he thinks I can't see him. Glowing spots spawn randomly every day, so there's no knowing exactly where they'll be, but I've found that they rarely spawn on the upper levels of my island, and for the most part they're pretty easy to find. I also follow the same path around my island each time to make it easier. You may find that this part is also a little easier at night, when the glow of the spots is more visible in the distance. Pretty soon you'll have gotten into the swing of your daily treasure hunt to collect those 8 saplings. It's really not that bad, provided you make sure not to momentarily catch sight of your bloodshot eyes and haggard face in the reflection of your screen during the endless abyss of the game's loading screen. Once you've collected your saplings, it's time to plant them. Each money tree takes 4 nights to grow from a sapling into a fully grown tree with 3 bags of bells. And once you've collected the bells, the trees revert to regular hardwood trees. You might as well dig these up and sell them to make way for the new saplings. And don't forget, you're going to need enough fruit on hand each day to dig up each of those trees. If you do as I have and replace harvested trees with new ones the same day, then you'll eventually end up with a constant loop of 32 trees in varying stages of growth on your island. So after burying your first 8 saplings, it's time to allot a space for your forest. You should bear in mind that trees will need at least 1 tile of free space around them in all directions from the spot they are planted to fully grow. You'll need to make sure to space them accordingly, removing all weeds and rocks from the area if you don't want to suffer any delays to your harvest. The more space you can give them, the less fiddly it will be when you collect your bells each day. If you can keep up this daily routine, you'll soon be raking in 160k every day. That's 1.12 million bells per week, which, as my old nan used to say, is better than a smack round the face with a flimsy net. And the benefits of extra residence don't stop there. You can also use them to collect multiple items per day from visiting NPCs such as Celeste, Wisp and Gulliver. Provided, of course, you have a level of patience on a par with Gulliver's crew. Seriously though, mate, stop jumping off the boat. What's wrong with you? Of course, if you are staying true to your in-game fiction, then just like a real music festival, the fun can't last forever. I did find a music festival in Georgia in 2017 that lasted a whole month. But if, like me, you've seen a Glastonbury campsite on a Monday morning, imagine trying to spend a month there. In any case, eventually when you start terraforming, you're going to want to send your festival buddies packing. To delete your extra residents, simply log into the game with them one by one and access the settings menu from the game's title screen. You'll need to have a short but rather alarming conversation with Tom Nook, but then you can delete your player and your extra Switch profile. Now, sit back and enjoy the spoils of your festival friends without ever having to see them again. Well, except maybe Fabio, as I will admit we have grown quite fond of him. And actually, come to think of it, I haven't seen sunrise for at least a couple of days.